Oscar is a hopeless prince with no chance of ever getting a wife in this life. He's been cursed to never have an heir, but he still wouldn't have been able to have one regardless of the curse. His luck somehow turns around when he meets a young witch and asks her to be his bride since she should be strong enough to withstand the curse. She then decides to spend a year living with him until she can find a way to break it. Will Oscar's curse finally be broken, or will the young witch give in to his desires? Oscar and his companion Lazar have snuck out of the castle like thieves in the night. They're on their way to find the Witch of the Azure Moon to lift a curse that has been placed on Prince Oscar. On the possibility that their journey fails, Oscar plans to find the culprit, the Witch of Silence, who cursed him. Lazar, on the other hand, is just a scared mummy's boy who wants to go back to the castle by all means. They approach the Azure Tower and start heading in, but Lazar is still being a party pooper on the occasion. Lazar tries to inform the prince that the risk is too great, despite the fact that the Witch of Silence hasn't been seen in over 15 years. No one has been able to reach the top of the Azure Tower in those years. Oscar couldn't care less about Lazar's troubles and just carried on with his mission. The prince tells Lazar to just put on a grieving face if he has to return to the castle without him. Oscar opens the doors of the tower and reveals the spiraling stairs that lead to the top. The challenges buried within the tower await them, and only when they reach the top will their wish be granted. Lazar tries once again to show just how much of a weakling he is, but Oscar tells him to wait outside. The prince's companion refuses and follows him regardless. They approach the first challenge, which is a stone tablet. They're surrounded by snakes on the ground, but Oscar really doesn't care about such insignificant things. He says they're not venomous and proceeds to solve the challenge. The tablet contains some kind of mathematical theory that he has to solve. No matter the day and age, you really just can't escape solving maths. Being royalty doesn't make any difference. Oscar mentions that it was an old unsolvable problem, but people figured it out about a decade ago. He solves it, which makes the tablet and snakes disappear. I guess Lazar was going to live one more day while being a nuisance. After that, a magic circle spawns on the ground and they get transported somewhere else. Meanwhile, at the top of the tower, a little white-haired girl is informing her master about the new challengers that have come. Her master thought everyone had forgotten about the tower, but the little girl reminds her of the last one that came about a month ago. The last challenger wasn't even able to solve the first tablet. What kind of idiotic person tried to get into this tower? The master refers to the girl as Litola. She sends Litola to keep an eye on the challengers while she remains at the top, waiting for them. While Litola leaves, the master of the tower makes a comment about how people don't usually make it past the first guardian beast. Just then, we see Prince Oscar making quick work of the stone guardian. I'm just surprised that he has managed to still keep Lazar alive up till that moment. Oscar only sees the lion as a light warm-up. He goes to look down at the stairs to see how far he has come and wonders if he'll die by jumping down. His intrusive thoughts were just rolling in like when you want to test fall damage in a video game. They continue to make their way up the tower. Oscar says that the last person to conquer it was his great-grandfather, and Lazar confirms it. It was around 70 years ago. King Regius was the only one to make it to the top out of the 10 that embarked on the journey. The tower was able to take out 9 out of 10 people, but these two are just casually taking a stroll through it. Well, one person more like, considering Lazar is nothing but dead weight. They approach the next room while Lazar is still begging like an annoying child for them to turn back. They've already come this far, but this dude is still nagging like an old lady. Oscar opens the doors of the room where the statues of 2 gargoyles lie in wait. The statues come to life and he goes to deal with them while telling Lazar to stay out of his way. The prince dodges their attacks and slices one of them like a hot knife through butter. Litola then gets back to her master and informs her of how far the challengers have come. After hearing that it's just 2 people, the master of the tower feels they should be given a consolation prize, but Litola lets her know that they would clear it. Back to Oscar as he kills the last gargoyle while Lazar remains more useless than Sakura in Team 7. As they approach the magic circle, the ground between them starts to break. The prince tries to go rescue his companion, but Lazar urges him to go on ahead. His companion apologizes for not being able to return with him and falls to his doom. At least there are no more extra hands to feed like babies. Oscar carries on and approaches the top of the tower where he sees a table with 2 chairs and a pot of tea. The witch comes down like an angel and asks him to take a seat as she has prepared tea for them. This is usually what happens before they decide to eat you, right? She introduces herself as Tinashe, and for a witch, that's quite a modern name. Oscar tells her that she looks nothing like a witch. Tinashe then says that Lazar is sleeping at the bottom and is not hurt. She pours some tea into a cup and offers it to him. Hopefully, he's smart enough to know not to drink it. Oscar asks her if she used magic to alter her appearance, but she just remarks on how rude he is. After living for hundreds of years, she has no wrinkles and looks younger than the girls in my school. Tinashe says that her body has just stopped aging after living for so long. She then asks him to introduce himself, and he says his name is Oscar Farsas. She recognizes the last name, Farsas, and asks him if he's a descendant of Regis. She seems quite surprised that he's the man's great-grandson, but says that his grandfather had a more kind-hearted face. She apologized by saying that Oscar was more manly, but you just know she's hitting on him. After that, Tinashe introduces Litola as her familiar to him. Litola tells the prince that Lazar is sound asleep outside the castle. I was really hoping we were done with that scaredy cat. Oscar asks Tinashe about what happens to the challengers who don't make it back. Tinashe tells him that she makes sure no one dies since she doesn't want to be living beside a graveyard. The challengers who fail have their memories altered and sent to random places. So much kindness for an entity known as a witch. It's almost like she's just teasing them to try again. Litola adds that Tinashe helps those who come looking for a cure and anything relating to that. This has to be the nicest witch in the entire world. Oscar asks her if she ever goes into town, and she replies that she doesn't like to interfere with the lives of humans. I spoke too soon. She doesn't even regard humans enough to associate with them. She feels like some kind of Disney princess at the top of her tower waiting for her Prince Charming to come and take her. The prince finally gets down to business and tells her that he's been cursed by the Witch of Silence. We see a scene where the witch curses his father to never have an heir, and she just decides to curse him as well. Dude was really young, and the witch just decided that she hated kids too. The witch must have been a real hater. Tinashe asks him why he got that curse, but Oscar says that his father didn't want to speak of it. He feels it was related to his mother who passed away before the incident. He has been looking for ways to break the curse since he was a little kid, but fate hasn't been kind to him. Tinashe lets him know that there's no guarantee that the curse can be lifted in the first place. Now, Oscar really has to spend the rest of his days without any hot-looking girl with him. She tells him that regular magic operates with an organized set of rules, but curses don't follow any of these rules. In worst-case scenarios, if there's no defined way to break the curse, then even the caster wouldn't be able to undo it. Tinashe tells Oscar that curses tend to act in indirect ways and can't directly kill people. She says it's not a curse, but he's been afflicted with a variant of a blessing. What kind of blessing prevents someone from having children? She reveals a pattern on his face that's supposed to be part of the blessing that has been cast on him. Tinashe says that the blessing is actually trying to protect any unborn child with an extremely powerful force. This means it's not just any mother that would be able to bear the child. The Witch of Silence seems to have given him quite a complicated blessing. Tinashe tells him that he just needs to find a woman who can resist the child's protective powers. It's time for all those independent and strong ladies to shine. She brings out a bowl and starts helping him to look for someone. If the woman they find is already married, there's nothing he can do. If she's elderly, it's fine. The problem was when Tinashe told him that if they found a child, he should raise her to be his ideal woman. Why exactly does she want him to take up a child? It seems the years have really affected her brain. Her reason is that marriages and royalty usually have age gaps of up to 20 years.
What?
The prince asks her if she can withstand the powers of the curse, and she affirms it. In the spur of the moment, this hopeless prince asks Tinashe to be his bride and leave the tower. Well, she has found her Prince Charming even though he's quite a foolish guy. Tinashe refuses even though she's been single for years. She finally gets the opportunity to be a bride and she turns it down. On the other hand, she makes a good point by saying how stupid he is for trying to introduce witch blood into the royal family. Oscar couldn't care less and has decided that she has to be his woman. Tinashe tells him that if she granted wishes like that, she'd have been his great-grandmother already. King Regis, you sly man. This bloodline seems to have an eye for witches. After the back and forth, they nearly get into a fight. Tinashe notices that he's holding the royal sword Acacia. It's a sword that has full magical resistance, and in this case, it's her worst matchup. She backs down and two of them continue their conversation. Oscar recalls that she used to live in Farsas Castle. She stayed there for half a year, teaching magic and raising flowers. The prince then asks her to leave the tower and live with him in Farsas for a year. She agrees and they head down to get Lazar, who's still sleeping like a fool. Oscar introduces Tinashe as the witch's pupil to him. Lazar asks him if the witch didn't try to eat him when he met her, and you could feel Tinashe holding the urge to send this guy to the pearly gates. They get on their horses and ride back to the castle. My fellow Rizzlers, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to click on this next one right here and keep on laughing.